I'm getting ready for September sowing. It really is a second spring, but unlike actual spring when the days are getting longer and warmer, at this time of year the days are getting shorter and cooler. So timings are really much more important. In the spring, if you sow a tray of, say, lettuce and it all gets eaten by slugs, it's usually there's plenty of time to catch up. However, at this time of year, the window of opportunity for resowing is a lot less. That's one of the reasons I always sow more than I need at this time of year, to have some extra plants in case of calamities. There's a huge amount of different kinds of vegetables and herbs that you can sow in September. Most of them are going to go in the polytunnel here, but they can also go outside with some crop protection. And I would use a cloche hoops and then some polythene or fleece, horticultural fleece. Getting offcuts of polytunnel polythene is ideal for making an outdoor cloche, or find big sheets of strong, durable plastic, such as the kind that is wrapped around mattresses. That will last the winter. Anything thin and flimsy will shred and shoot all over the garden, and that's just not good. So what you're really doing is protecting the plants from the weather. All of these are frost hardy. They'll survive frosts unless it was, some kind of incredibly Arctic winter. But keeping the weather off really helps. The winds, the heavy rains, the sort of relentlessness of weather that can happen during the winter can really knock little plants back. So protect them from the weather, and you should be able to grow everything here outside if you don't have a polytunnel or a greenhouse. I sow things usually in modules in order to put out transplants, such as these lettuces here, which are then pricked out into module trays to grow on as a transplant. This means that I can have lots of plants, which is great if some of them get eaten. I've got backups. As I said, at this time of year, the days are getting shorter, and there won't be so much time to re-sow if all the slugs in Wales come along and eat all my plants. And also it makes them a bit bigger when they go out, so they're sturdier and they're more resistant to pests. Normally I would have had my polytunnel full of tomatoes and aubergines and all kinds of things, and in September they're still there and they're still cropping. So normally I would also be growing them in modules because they're easy to pop in around the established plants, so intercropping, and then as the established plants finish in October and November, these are growing on. Or it gives them a bit of a head start, so when the plants are ready to come out, these are ready to go in. So there's many good reasons for using modules. The kind of things that I'm growing include different kinds of salad vegetables, and not just winter lettuces, but also things like mustards and mizuna and different rockets, which add like super zing to winter salads, which just makes them really tasty. And it's a delight in the winter to have fresh leaves. There's a bit of a myth that you shouldn't eat salad in the winter time. Actually, it's a really nice thing to have some raw food in the winter. And I think what people usually are more concerned about is it's good not to eat imported salad in the winter time, but it's great to eat salads that you've grown yourself. I also multi-sow in a module tray like this spring onions. These are very handy, not just as spring onions, but they grow over the winter time. I can use them as salad onions, and then if I leave them into the spring, they'll bulb up and make baby onions at a time of year when I've usually eaten all my stock of onions that I grew the previous year. So multi-use, very handy. I would sow 5 or 6 seeds into each little module like this. Herbs really add to winter foods. Outside I've got all kinds of woody herbs which grow through the winter, such as rosemary or thyme. But here I'm also going to be growing chervil and coriander and dill and parsley. which add vitamins and flavour and excitement to cooked food and raw food. The dill can get killed off in really cold weather. When we had the beast from the east, all my dill got wiped out. Other things such as kale, spring cabbage and spring greens can be sown now. They are very hardy plants, they're happy outside, but I find if you can grow some with some protection, it brings it on earlier and they just are a bit sweeter. I don't know why, maybe they just like the cosseted life. It's also a brilliant time for sowing what I call funky brassicas, which are things that can only be sown really towards the end of August, otherwise they bolt, such as wawa choy and broccoli rabe. Many of them I get from Real Seeds. They have a good selection of funky brassicas. Wrapper as well, I grow that. They just add a bit more excitement, and a lot of them produce shoots which taste like broccoli and can be used like that, and they're just lovely and delicious and things to look forward to during the winter. Spinach you can sow now. That's a great winter crop full of vitamins, and it really gets sweet after frost as well, which is brilliant. It's also really handy to be able to grow brassicas like this over the winter if, like me, you had the catastrophe that while you were working away in London, the slugs and the beasts all came and ate most of your winter brassicas. So it's another opportunity to make sure you've got those lovely nutrient-rich greens. Now, as I've mentioned, I haven't quite learned how to do editing yet, and I appreciate that a list is really useful. So, since I don't know how to put a list on the video, we're going a bit old school here, and what I've done is I've written you a list here. So if you want to know the kinds of things you can sow in September,